Today we're going to make a batch of my homemade fondant. So first, you need a scale. You're going to put your KitchenAid right on top. You want to make sure it says grams, not ounces. You're going to take some room temperature water, and you're going to make sure it gets to 100 grams, so pour slowly, it gets there quick. We're at 101. We're okay. Now I flavor my fondant mainly with marshmallow, vanilla, and then some butter. You can use any combination, but you need 18 to 20 grams. So we're going to just keep adding. So I'm going to do about 10. I do about half of the main flavor that I want. I'll get to about 110. The marshmallow. Butter is about 5. And vanilla. So you need to be between 118 and 120. Then after that, you need 2 tablespoons of gelatin, and you just sprinkle it right in there evenly, and it doesn't matter about the scale now. Just make sure you don't dump it in there so it forms too many clumps. And if you look in here, some of it hasn't quite touched the water, so I'll just kind of poke it, make sure all of it gets in the liquid. And then we're going to wait a few minutes and let it bloom. Okay, so as you can tell, it's bloomed. The water it's not jiggling around, so it's ready. We're going to add 1 cup of light corn syrup. I'll take it over and start heating. Place it on a double boiler. And this process right here is going to take about maybe 5 to 7 minutes. What you're wanting is all of this. If you look in here, you can see the gelatin is in clumps and it's really grainy on the sides. We want to cook most of those crystals out. So I kind of scrape the sides and just keep working with the gelatin. And I've got it on high heat, and that's just fine. So we'll just wait about 5 to 7 minutes and go from there. Okay, so it's been about 4, maybe 5 minutes, and I usually run this up the side, and you can see there's not very many crystals. And that's when it's about right. So I've just heated it up where there's no lumps in here. If there are lumps, those you can just pull out. Obviously not with your hand, it's pretty hot. But when you just pull up the side and you don't see too many crystals, you're good to go. So you can just move on over to your mixer. And this mixture, you want to start looking like marshmallow. Like almost melted marshmallow. We want it to be white instead of translucent. So you're going to add 2 pounds slowly in small increments. You might not even get to all the 2 pounds. It depends on how thick the batter gets, or the mixture gets. Does not need to be sifted. Just keep slowly adding. You You do want the mixture to get fairly thick. It'll make easier for kneading on the next step. But just slowly, you can still see it's kind of opaque. You want to get it like a creamy marshmallow white color. No need to scrape the bowls. It's sticky enough it'll pull from the sides. So right now it's still not quite as white as I'd like it, but it's definitely a creamy, thicker mixture. So we'll just get the rest of my 2 pounds in there. Just kind of crank it up, make sure any big lumps are out. And then we'll stop there. Then we'll come over here. Grab your other 2 pounds. You want to dump this in a big circle here. What you want is to create a wall for the batter to go in. So you don't have a big mess running all over your counter. Make sure it's covering the bottom also. You don't want it going straight onto your counter. It'll just be a sticky mess. That'll do. Take your mixture, scrape it out with one of these flimsy bench scrapers right into the center. This is where you kind of have to work quickly. You want to pull it in and push down. And you're eventually going to need to go around all the sides. And it's going to start to form a ball that you will be able to start kneading. It depends on the day and the moisture in the air if you'll need more or less powdered sugar. I'm in a fairly dry climate. So you just have to see how sticky it is. If you can't form a ball and it's still running, you're going to need some more powdered sugar. But I think we're good here. You want to end when it's still on the softer side, when it's still somewhat runny, because you don't want your fondant to be too heavy or too hard to work with. So that's about it. It's pretty much staying together in its ball. So that's when you'll grease up your hands fairly well. And start bringing it in and kneading it. Let any excess just fall out to the side. And stay underneath, because your counter might get kind of sticky and messy too. As you can see, this still is soft enough that it's still falling, so I don't want to grab any more powdered sugar. I just want it to stay underneath. But this is about how soft you want it when you wrap it up. Now this is just to, you don't need it to be completely smooth. You'll see there's still powdered sugar on it. You might even see some lumps. By tomorrow, those will kind of work its way into the dough, into the fondant, and it's going to be a lot firmer than this once it comes to room temperature. So I'm going to double wrap this in plastic wrap really tightly, and I'm also going to put it in a Ziploc bag. And tomorrow, at least let it rest for 4 hours on its own or overnight, and it'll be ready to work with tomorrow. Okay, so this is the one I just made, and if you look close, you can still see powdered sugar, and you can see just by me holding it, it's still very pliable. And this I'm going to put also, it's double wrapped, but I also want to put it in a Ziploc. But I'll do that in a second. This one has been sitting overnight, and it is quite hard. It doesn't bend, it's very hard. It will take a lot of work to knead and to get it as smooth as we want it. Just going to cut off a small amount that I need. Be sure and wrap it back up really tightly against what you cut off. And this will keep just at room temperature. As long as you keep it very tightly wrapped, it should keep for at least a month or two. Then you'll want to grease your mat. Lightly grease your hands. And just start working it. As you can see right now, it has a lot of space in there. Just you want to get the gelatin to start loosening up and forming back into a smoother texture, because right now it's trying to spread from, I believe, the room or the temperature that it's at, which is why it gets really hard. And so you have to work in small. You can get bigger than this, but in small batches. This is about this batch makes about 4.5 pounds and should cover a 6, 9, and a 12-inch cake thinly. And probably enough for some decorations too, if you have decorations you want on it. Now this is a pretty small piece, so I've worked it pretty quick. But you can still see it still needs to be worked in, because once you start pulling it, if it's tearing, you still need to knead it a little bit more. As you're kneading it, when you're pulling it out, and you can see you don't have any pockets, it's getting pretty smooth, then that is when you are ready to roll it out and make whatever you want.